Yes.
Yes, please.
All right, there we go.
Randy, are you able to hear us now?
Now I can. Thank you.
All right. Welcome to the Middleton, the City Hall for the Plan Commission today, July 25th at 7 o'clock. We're going to do our call to order and our roll call.
Adams.
Here.
Moniro.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
And I do not see Erdman, Hermans, or Harp. I will mark them both as absent. Mayor Kuhn is present.
Thanks so much. We're going to start off with our public hearings. It is past 7 o'clock, so it's 7:01, rezoning from R3A High Density Residential to Planned Development District General Implementation Plan Castle Rock Redevelopment, 6414 to 6418 University Avenue and 2009 Lakeview Avenue. Do I start with the developers or in the order of the public comments? Their guidance?
If we can give you a quick overview and then I think continue with the hearing and then save the development presentation
For after?
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Okay.
I'll just simply start by saying that this is a hearing on a request to rezone 4 parcels from R3A, which is high density residential, to Planned Development District GIP, General Implementation Plan, for 6414 through 6418 University Avenue, as well as 2009 Lakeview Avenue, for the purpose of building approximately 90 units, multifamily housing and underground parking and surface parking.
Okay.
And I will have you open the hearing, or are you about to?
Yes, it's open.
Did you open? I would
Yes.
simply say that we received for the record a statement from Carolyn Jane Mattern, who formerly lived at Charing Cross Condos. She expressed concern about the loss of modestly priced housing, the scale of the building looming over nearby residences, and she also shared an idea for incorporating design elements that pay tribute to the existing idiosyncratic visual landmark, is how she put it. So obviously it's a very distinctive building that's there today. And so she shared ideas that we passed along to the developer for incorporating features into that new project. So that's the only comment we received for the record.
I much appreciate you sharing that. And with this open public hearing, I'm going to go ahead and call Sharon Brummel. Now, does she have 3 minutes?
Yes, 3
Okay.
minutes.
For the record, no, hold on, okay. For the record, can you state your name and address, and then for anyone speaking after her, the same.
I'm Sharon Brummel and I live at 6222 Lakeview Boulevard in Middleton. And I did register opposed to this. I'm not really opposed to a development there. I'm just opposed to the lack of parking and some of the density. My husband Ed and I work in property management, so we're very familiar with managing properties and apartments. We even chose where we live because of the area it is. It's by a lot of apartments. It's what we do too. Our main concern with this development is the number of planned parking spaces. We realize that a lot of, or most of the new multifamily buildings that are being approved in Middleton have about 1 parking space per dwelling unit. And this proposed building will really only have about 85 spaces for the tenants or for the residents. And it has 113 bedrooms and 90 units. So that's more like 0.75 spaces per bedroom. The reason that's concerning to us is because on Lakeview Boulevard, there's already a 39 unit apartment complexes there. And those are 2 and 3 bedrooms. And they have 46 off street parking spaces and 39 apartments. So that's 1.18 spaces per dwelling unit, but they really have more bedrooms. And every day that our street is full of their parked cars, and that's fine. I just don't know where more parked cars are going to go, because they're already full with these. And we have alternate side parking from November 15th through March 15th. So I don't know how that's going to work for plowing. So I'm asking, with this density, 90 units, 85 spaces, where are they really going to park? When Lakeview Avenue, Lakeview Boulevard, and Oakwood Place are already very parked. If you go down the street anytime, I took a picture, I could show it to you, but I don't have to. I mean, you can just drive there and see how full it is. Where will visitors park? Where will the staff or employees park? You know, it's going to be full. And currently that intersection at Lakeview Ave, Lakeview Boulevard, Oakwood Place is uncontrolled. With the addition of more cars coming in off Lakeview Avenue, that's going to have to be addressed somehow. However, the public works wants to do that. Right now, I mean, that hill on Lakeview Ave is steep, and in the wintertime, we see cars not being able to get up the hill, add parked cars on that street and cars trying to turn into the driveway. It's going to be a problem. I doesn't take much imagination to see that. Other things I had, here's my picture of the parked, you know, the parked up street. Will residents of the new building ride the bus? The closest stops are Branch and Allen. It's a far fit for people to walk these days. Also with rents ranging from about $1,400 to $2,400.
Okay, that's your timer.
Yep. There's going to be more people living there. There's going to be more cars than 90. It's going to be too many cars. So, and not enough parking spaces. So fix it, please.
Thank you. Okay, next is this Ed Bremmel?
Ed Brummel, I work with Sharon, and we live on Lakeview Boulevard, and we manage quite a few units along Allen Boulevard and other places in Middleton and some of the other cities. And we've been finding that the concentration of apartments going up is causing different issues. And one of the main things is parking here or whatever. But when we think about on the end of Allen Boulevard, the soccer fields, is proposed 540 more units down there. That's over 1,000 people. So we're going to have to put more stoplights on Allen Boulevard in a couple of places, maybe stoplights like Sharon just said, on the top of Lakeview. And then there's no way to get out when it's icy. We have issues there. Our experience as property managers, as time goes on and rent prices keep going up, our affordable housing is going away. So with the high end units here, they're expensive, and I know they have to get that kind of rent to make the building work, and maybe put a lot of units in there to make it work. And that's, you know, I'm not disputing that at all, but the concentration of the number of people where we may have with other developments in our area and other buildings open up, a couple more 1,000 people in that immediate area. I don't know how that's all going to work. It's going to be tough. You know, we managed down Galway Bay, Forest Harbor there for about 25 years. And through the years, as the stuff got more expensive, we lost a lot of our single people that had one car and they rented 2 bedrooms. So that's why we're saying you need at least 1 parking spot per bedroom. We had a 3-bedroom, 3 young people would be in there. They're saving money. So I don't know how this is really physically going to work without the parking. I have no problem with the building as such, but where are people going to go? How's the carryout doing? Have you guys checked with the carryout? Are they full? What's their occupancy level right now on University Avenue? Where are they going to park? We're kind of wondering if they're going to come around to Wynwood Court and be there. And again, with the rents going up to $1,400 to $2,400, we're going to keep increasing our rents also to get the lowest common denominator of renter. And so that's going to hurt our people. And then we're going to continue to see higher densities in our apartments, and they're going to have more than 1 vehicle. And we've been seeing that for many years. Wynwood Court, for instance, extra large 2-bedroom luxury variety apartments, okay, and 1,100 to 1,400 square foot apartments. So in the same category, you guys are the 1,100 square foot apartments or whatever, maybe they're smaller into what we have. And we used to get a lot of single people there, and now they're doubling up. Some of the families can't find 3 bedrooms and they're coming in here. We went for 15 years without a single child in there because we didn't have 3 bedrooms. And now they're like, for affordability, we're into there with a 2-bedroom, and most of them have 2 cars, at least 2 cars. So I want you guys to really think about the density of people you're putting in there, you know, with the Allen Boulevard proposal, end of Allen Boulevard with Middleton Shores, you know, redoing those buildings sounds like a great idea, but we really need to think about, you know, how many people we should be putting in. Thank you.
May I ask a clarifying question? How do you refer to the carry-in?
Carry on.
Oh,
Carry on.
I mentioned Carrier,
I
yes.
didn't know how to spell it. Thank you.
Sometimes names change, but
It was a threshold,
yeah,
6230 university.
yeah, I do appreciate
Oh,
that. Yeah.
that one. Okay, I
The
heard
new
a
one.
different name. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I would like to note that Todd Freeber, did I say that correct? Okay, thank you. At 6206 Lakeview Boulevard, does not wish to speak, but is marked as opposed to the item. And Pat Freeber at 6206 Lakeview Boulevard, does not wish to speak, but does oppose the item. Is that accurate? Okay, I appreciate that. So with that, is there anyone else that would like to speak from the audience? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing then. It is 7:11. Moving on to the minutes, the Plan Commission minutes of July 11th. Do we have any motions or discussion? Or motions and then discussion or any corrections?
I mean, I will note I was online the entire time. I wasn't here for, I was returning from getting off the airplane. So I did listen to the entire thing. I just wasn't here for check-in. So
Excellent.
We listed you as absent because your video was not on. And for Plan Commission and Common Council, in order to be counted as present, your video must be on. Actually, I think that's true for all the committees.
yeah, perfectly okay.
I do think, though, that it's inaccurate to say she was absent. So can she be listed in some other way, such as members online and have her name in parentheses, no video or something? Because
And I only note it because I did unmute myself for the whole pedestrian
Right.
bicycle
And
nomination. And speak, so.
that's how I knew you were there. And I was going to bring this up as a correction because I remember, yeah.
And maybe we could come up with language for the interim, but maybe we could share that with the city administrator for future committees. They might have some standard language, but I appreciate the brainstorming. So,
I think what we could do is present, but was not counted for quorum or
Sure.
not available for quorum purposes or something like that.
that's fair. Thank you. All right. In that case, with those changes, do I have a motion? Is that when we have corrections? Okay. In that case, I'm being clarified. I can make the approval with, even if there is correction. So as chair, I will approve the commission minutes with the small minor change. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda items. First is rezoning from R3A High Density Residential to Plan Development District General Implementation Plan, Castle Rock Redevelopment, 6414, 6418 University Avenue, and 2009 Lakeview Avenue. I'm going to let staff provide some background and then I'll allow the Gary Brink and Associates present, or the developers present for 2 minutes. Go ahead, staff.
Thank you. I have the recommendation that was in the packet did not have numbered items, so we've added numbers so that you can refer to them if you wish during discussion. As I said at the beginning, this is a 90-unit building proposed for this site with 90 parking spaces, 45 of which are covered. About 5 of them would be located at on the east end of the building with a separate access point and potentially not available for resident parking. The developer can speak to that. I would simply add that they had a neighborhood meeting that was attended by about 13 or 15 people. I was there as well. It was a good discussion back and forth with residents, a lot of opportunity to ask questions. I thought it was well run. The applicant has changed their concept significantly from what was originally presented to the commission back in February. There's no longer a wing of the building that extends north into the neighborhood. It's just lining University Avenue, which we at the staff level are more comfortable with. I think it's safe to say all three of us are. We are recognizing that there's displacement of affordable housing units, some of the most affordable housing in the city that is gradually disappearing, and that's very unfortunate. But that is something the developers are aware of, and we've asked them to speak to that. And in their statement, in their submittal, they address that they are trying to work with residents. Otherwise, I don't really have anything notable to report. The one thing I would flag regarding the height of the building is that the shadow study indicates that during the winter solstice, there's quite a bit of shadow cast to the north, which isn't a surprise. The building sits up on a hill. The buildings to the north drop away a little bit, but that's not too surprising. So I don't really have anything else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions. The developer obviously is here as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask the developer to come up to the podium and share a little insight on both the initial conversation of the email write-in on interesting of the current thing. There's a way we can weave in some reflection of architecture, minor details on the outside, not major, as well as the parking concern from the folks that have been here today.
Thank you, commissioners and mayor. Welcome. My name is Jeff Brinkus with GBA Architecture here in Middleton. As Mark had indicated, we have had a neighborhood meeting with the neighbors and as well as the concept plan review. And there's been some, as Mark would say, there's been some significant improvements and changes to the plan. Some of the feedback that we did get and that we are obviously addressing and listening to with the neighbors are the inclusion of a fence basically from Lakeview Avenue all the way kind of around the site to those parking stalls that Mark had mentioned to the east there. So again, we're addressing those concerns. We've situated and sited the building parallel with University Avenue, and then made it the 5-story that it is now. The uppermost floor on the site to the north was stepped back, and it creates an amenity space, kind of a deck up there. Again, kind of trying to have a gesture towards the neighbors that we heard in the neighborhood meeting as well. To address the write-in comment about the value, the intrinsic value of the stone. Tom Ripple is, I think, the second owner after the former owner that built it. He's told some interesting stories meeting with the builder of that facility. And, I think that it would be we could tastefully introduce whether it's in some monumental sign for the property or some directional signage. I think that would be kind of a nod to the historic value of the property, of what it is right now, and incorporate that. So parking, we are with the ordinance, a 1-to-1 dwelling unit to parking. It was stated that the parking stalls is 90 parking stalls for 90 units. Right now, just kind of the way that the site, thank you, Mark, for putting that one up there. So there's the 5 stalls off of University Avenue. Some of the things that, as we designers kind of look at things, we've got to have a leasing office, we have to have handicap accessibility, obviously to those leasing offices, to visitors coming to see the residents. Just kind of providing that in that location worked really well. Providing those 5 stalls up top and kind of keeping the ingress and egress off of University. That was one of the comments that we did hear from concept plan review. And so we kind of, with the Lakeview property, we were able to kind of work the ingress and egress kind of around the corner onto Lakeview, where it'll take a little bit of the pressure off of University. The 5 stalls, again, it's our handicap access for visitors. We do have access points that will be available at that kind of open parking area back into the building through a door that's on the lower level to get kind of into that elevator lobby. But you know, for Uber pickups, for mail delivery, I think we'd prefer to have a entrance point maintained up on that level, and you know, whether that's used by residents or you know, again, they're handicap stalls as well, so the provided, you know, those are typically less used in a facility like this, but they are there. So anyway. I think we have a couple opportunities to maybe squeeze a few more stalls in as well on the open parking area.
Mixed use. I forgot to mention the mixed use comment. That was actually the one comment I wasn't going to forget, but I remember. So we provided some feedback as we were designing or reviewing the project GIP, and thinking about the University Avenue corridor plan as well as the zoning ordinance that's under development. We advised the developer to consider the addition of a mixed use commercial space on the corner, since this is at a reasonably prominent corner. And so I guess I asked him to be prepared to address that, since I thought that might come up from commissioners as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for bringing that up. So we're, if you want to flip to the first floor plan. Next one. So we have looked into this and we've explored the option, an opportunity to maybe provide approximately 1,000 square foot kind of corner commercial space right on the corner of Lakeview and University. Some of our challenges are obviously with the siting of this building. Everybody kind of already had pointed out that this Lakeview is a pretty significant grade differential. So we wanted to be sure of before we kind of really further explored this is, you know, how do we get handicap access to that? I think one of the opportunities is that unit and that patio currently, as it's shown, does have accessibility pretty much right to the public sidewalk from that point. Additionally, the handicap stalls to the far right on the plan also have handicap access directly to what we're showing is that 10-foot bike path in front. From there, it's approximately, I think it's around 200 and some feet on the public right-of-way for handicap access. I mean, that was the biggest challenge that I think we were going to face, is how do we make that accessible? There are no real requirements for kind of the once we get onto the right-of-way. The right-of-way is approximately 36 inches down from there, so we're about maybe a 2%-ish slope. So I think it's well within the, you know, kind of the ADA guidelines of, what we would do inside of a building, for instance. I think that can work for us in that regard to provide the handicap access to that space. I think with that, there's, I think Mary said there was 2 minutes, so I think it probably far exceeded my 2 minutes. So I appreciate it.
Fair. I think they asked a
Appreciate-
follow-up question, so I appreciate that.
Appreciate the latitude.
Yeah, commissioners, do you have any thoughts, or online Commissioner Bruce, do you have any thoughts?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you talk a little louder for me?
For sure.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, I think this is this version of the proposals much better than what we saw, I think, in February. And I'm encouraged with the developer taking into account both the Plan Commission's comments and the neighborhood's comments. As far as the general development plan goes, I'm pretty comfortable with where it's at. It is a little light on parking. I would agree with that, but I think we've had discussions within the commission level of maybe not requiring as much parking in an effort to really help support the transit system, and particularly on University Avenue. I would ask the developer if they're available to speak to their experience with parking. I know that Mr. Ripple's an experienced developer and property manager, and what his thoughts are in terms of the amount of parking he's provided, and is he comfortable that that's going to meet the market need?
Tom, thank you for being here tonight.
Well, very good at that.
I'm Thomas Ripple. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for the comments from the folks. I've been in this business about 50 years. I've been the owner of the Castle Rock location almost 40 years. And so I provided and actually I should speak to Randy's question. And most recently, we completed a 53 unit building over in Madison off of Midvale Boulevard. And we provided parking there, and have found that we have a predominant group of residents that fill the building mostly in the studio and one bedroom. And so typically we find one person per unit. In this location, we propose 22 two bedrooms. So, but we are pretty comfortable in our 53 unit. We have a lot of unused parking. And so we're not in an urban area as much as if you can imagine the south end of Midvale near the Dorn Hardware. It's a little bit more kind of neighborhoody rather than urban where there's more pressure on parking. But my experience is that the 90 spaces for 90 apartments, where we have predominantly 65 that will be efficiencies or studios or one bedrooms, that should be adequate, and it shouldn't inconvenience the folks who live on the street or in the neighborhood unnecessarily. So.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I did have just a couple other comments that I can wait to add, that maybe considerations as this thing moves forward towards the SIP stage. I'll leave those till later.
Okay, I appreciate that. Does any other commissioner have thoughts?
I think if there's a development that we stick to the one-to-one parking, this would be the candidate, because this corridor of University Avenue is no longer served by Madison Metro Transit. That changed the towards the beginning of June. So you do have a pretty decent distance to walk from that location to either Allen or to Branch Street. And to be honest, in winter, that's not going to be a pleasant walk. Or even on days when it's 95 degrees, it's not going to be a pleasant walk. So, if you're targeting people who are going to utilize transit, people who are going to utilize transit may not be considering this this development as much as other developments in the city that are closer to or right on transit routes. So also thinking about if you do end up putting a commercial space in there, being considerate about where is the parking for the commercial space going to go. If there's already pressure in the neighborhood with street parking as is, you add more units, people have multiple cars, where are people who are going to visit the commercial spot going to park as well? So kind of my thoughts on the parking situation.
Can I clarify how far is this to the branch stop? Because from my recollection, it's about a quarter of a mile.
For measuring.
Appreciate it. All right, I understand what you're saying. Any other commissioner wants to speak?
I had a question about the parking. So the 5 spots located to the east of the property, would that be overnight parking or would it just be for people visiting the rental office or getting their Uber or dropping off UPS packages?
I think at this time, we're providing them up there what they get used for. Ultimately, I think we're giving the opportunity for the short-term parking opportunity for the Ubers, for the taxis, for potentially the mail deliveries, to be able to access there. Would it be overnight parking? I think it certainly could be overnight parking because obviously they're not utilizing the leasing office.
Mhm.
The leasing office, I guess I would ask, Tom, Julio, how many times does the leasing office, during the course of a day really get utilized? Yeah, so I think, the short-term parking, for one, for a car here and there, I think that, I don't anticipate that it's 5 stalls for short-term all the time. I think we could certainly sign one as short-term parking, for deliveries and that kind of thing as well. So I think.
Okay. And then just a question about if commercial space is added, would residents be able to access it from inside the building?
Short answer is, I think it's still in, a little bit of a discovery time right now of how, just simply put, taking that 2-bedroom that's on the corner, there is corridor access directly into that. How we secure it, obviously, there's a reason why, we kind of talked about coming out of those handicap stalls and coming off to the public right of way is we want to make sure that the building is secure for our residents, number one. And the commercial space would be, how we access that and what it is yet to be determined. I think that, yes, it could be accessed from that corridor by residents. It's just how we access, control it on the other side. I think that's easy enough to fix, but we're still looking into what that space could be.
Okay.
Abby?
We measured the distance to Branch Street and it's about 1,150 feet, which is about a quarter of a mile or a 5-minute walk. One of the positives about this walk is that it's along a stretch of University that has about 6.5-foot wide grass terraces. So we don't have that issue with the snow piling up that we have in some of the areas that have the narrower terrace that makes the sidewalks really hard in the winter.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that because I dropped the kids off. So I go up Mendota, turn right onto Branch Street. So I look left and I can see the kids walking from Sauk Trail that are currently there at Castle Rock. Or I scoot over and go that way on University. And that is a side talk, so I apologize. But thank you, Abby, for confirming that. You know, when I lived in Chicago, a quarter mile to catch a bus here might seem like a long distance, but if they're transplants, they might be okay with it. My final comment is I was thinking if you want to, this is a stretch, but if you want to incorporate that Castle Rock like color and stuff, that bottom column on each corner, that's a good opportunity. It just would be interesting, but not all the way up, just that first level. So when they're walking by, that might be an opportunity. Does not have to be obnoxious. but
Well, I think we've
Mm-hmm.
also,
colorful.
you know, considered maybe like the planters, you know,
Mhm.
one of the things that we, as you can see, I mean, we recognize and acknowledge that this is a prominent corner. There is a fairly significant amount of landscaping that we want to provide on that corner just to make it, you know, a very engaging space as well. And, you know, we do have to create some planters. I think, you know, some of the opportunities there is, you know, maybe they could be faced with, you know, some of those stones as well.
Nice, thank you. Abby?
One other item to note, when the Kestrel apartment building was approved, they only installed a blade sign. So it was just affixed to the wall and they did not do a monument sign because we're trying to transform the University Avenue corridor into a more pedestrian oriented corridor and away from the automobile oriented development. So we would actually discourage the monument sign at all. I hope that there's a way that you could incorporate just maybe a wall sign rather than doing a monument sign at this
Thank you.
location.
Or something on the corner, you know, like a yeah, specifically.
Sure.
And I just want to confirm the setback from the sidewalk, is it a good 20 feet?
From, well.
Or from the road?
Yeah, well, from the road, we are 20.
20 feet setback from the property line. I think that would be more across the sidewalk.
Oh, sorry, can you go to the sidewalk or to the microphone?
Or just repeat it and
Into the microphone.
So we are 20-foot setback from the sidewalk on Lakeview, right? So
That's what I wanted to hear.
more or less, and then 15 in the front.
Thank you.
And we currently have that 10-foot bike path shown on this plan. That's that isn't what's there right now.
I like bike paths. That's delightful. Okay. Yeah, Alder Haniro.
well, speaking of bike paths, I read it, but I can't remember. Did you include any bicycle parking?
Yes, down in the lower level, we have along the north wall, we have wall mounted bike.
Okay, and then also on sustainability, what about EV chargers? And please do consider adding solar.
The solar is something we are considering. The developers, Hammersley property has solar panels on the roof as well. So we would be considering that here. As far as EV chargers, I don't know, you guys don't have EV charge, you have 3 of them at, and we'd be considering that here as well, providing. Okay.
Great. Anything else? All right, and my final question is, when the audience was talking, they thought that there was a less than a 1-for-1 parking spot. So I understand that you do have 1-for-1, but I'm trying to figure out where the differential is. Why is it that the public thinks that there's 65-ish, and staff can answer if they have an idea, and why there is actually 1-for-1. I just want to make sure that we're clearing that up.
I'd be happy to. So I flagged it in my staff report as noting that they were providing 90 spaces and that there are 90 dwelling units. But I said that the way that the 5 spaces on the east end of the building, the 5 that have separate access off university, are going to be used during the day for leasing purposes, for deliveries, et cetera. So essentially, they won't be available full-time for residents to park. And that's where I think the idea of it being less than a 1-to-1 ratio came from, because at night, those spaces, if they're available for residents, then yes, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. But I think
I
that's,
apologize. I thought I heard the public say 65. So I thought that was a 30 difference, but if it's 5 and that's the difference, I'm just going to ask for a nod. Is that what you all understood? Was that it was just 5 short?
Yeah, 85.
Okay,
they said
so I
85.
misheard.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Sorry. All right. So that gets us back to the 1-to-1, but I can still understand why you're concerned. And thank you for everyone's patience. All right. Do I have a motion on the rezoning?
Can you pull up the, yeah.
Commissioner Russell, make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Summer, second.
Any discussion?
I have a question about the first item. Is this property intended to be, regardless of what happens with this development, is this property or this parcel intended to be designated as avenue mixed use in a future land use map?
That would be consistent with our current future. You mean I think you're asking about the future zoning of the property. So the avenue mixed use is the future land use map currently designates 3 of the 4 parcels as avenue mixed use. The future zoning would have to be consistent with the future land use map. What the first bullet indicates is that the small parcel where there's currently a single family residence is not designated on the future land use map as avenue mixed use. And so that is something when we are going to be discussing amendments to the comprehensive plan and future land use map that we are identifying that needs to change. So that's what that first bullet addresses.
Okay, thanks.
And then I think the other question you're asking, Alder Hanairo, is number 9, is the multifamily high density zoning classification or its equivalent. That would be coinciding with the avenue mixed use component.
Yeah. Right. Once we update the zoning code,
Right.
that needs to change.
Right.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the first one does that need to be pulled out and moved separately? Because it just seems like of a different character than the rest of the items. They're all something that the developer can have some influence over. And it sounds like the city will designate this property as avenue mixed use, regardless of whether or not this development goes forward. That's all I was thinking, but I don't want to split hairs. I think it's.
The piece of property, we likely would not have brought it forward as a comprehensive plan amendment because it's a tiny little site. It's only 0.1 acres. It's 0.1 acres, isn't it? It's like
It's tiny.
4,500 square feet. But we felt that it was beneficial to the development to incorporate that small piece of property. So that's why we're recommending bringing forward the change, but we likely would not have done it without this layout that's before you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, all those in favor?
Just a question. I'm sorry. So the
Yes.
motion, I heard a motion made, but I didn't hear if the conditions and all that were part of that. I just wanted to clarify the motion.
Let me amend that, make a motion with the conditions outlined in the staff report, numbered 1 through 10.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And Commissioner Summers, do you agree to that?
Summer, so second.
All right, all those in favor of approving the rezoning from R3A to planned Development District General Implementation Plan for Castle Rock redevelopment, 6414 to 6418 University Avenue and 2009 Lakeview Avenue with the 10 contingencies as noted by city staff. Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Moving on.
And just for the record, specifically, that was a recommendation to the council, and that will be on the council agenda next Tuesday.
Thank you. The design review for parking lot Lake Ridge Bank, 8301 University Avenue. Do I have a motion?
This is Hanira. I'll move approval contingent upon staff approval of the landscaping plan and approval of an updated stormwater management plan and SWMSMA.
Do I have a second?
Adams will second.
Any discussion?
I had a couple questions for staff. One is looking at the plan submittal checklist. This is, just me getting to know the process. It says very clearly on the checklist that all of the spaces should be checked or marked NA. So I'm just wondering, this isn't the first time I've seen a checklist come in that has nothing marked. Can you explain?
Yes, I think in this case, they had submitted the plans to us much before. And then we had decided, no, you'll need plan commission approval for it. So then they hastily kind of, I think, had to fill it out to make it in time for this plan commission. But yeah, in most cases, we do require them to fill out all the check boxes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the design review for parking lot Lake Ridge Bank, 8301 University Avenue, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 3, sign design review for monument sign Volt AV, 6621 Century Avenue. Do I have a motion?
This is Haniro. I'll move approval of the signs.
Do I have a second?
Summers will second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say, as somebody who drives past this spot every day practically, it's going to be nice to have some color.
I concur. All right, all those in favor of the sign design review for monument sign Volt AV 6621 Century Avenue, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 4, park and open space fee and land dedication for Red Tail Ridge Acker Farm Development. Do I have a motion?
This is Haniro. I'll recommend. Can you bring it up? We have a 3-part recommendation.
Thank you for that.
And I guess I'll just lump them all together. Recommend that we determine that the proposed 4.57 acre park site and the proposed 3.37 acre parks within the Red Tail Ridge Acre Farm development are suitable to meet the parkland dedication requirements. And that we determine that the subdivider may satisfy the dedication requirements of section 19.063K by combining land dedication with fee payments, and we determine that the appropriate park fee in lieu of land dedication payment amount of $861,000.
Do I have a second?
Adams will second.
Any discussion?
I had a question about can you go to the map? For Daphne? So the private park area looks like it includes, I guess I'm trying to get at what is the purpose of giving credit up to a quarter of the land dedication area for private spaces such as the ones that are going to be located along Pheasant Branch Road, which clearly aren't going to be used for recreation. It looks like there's also some inclusion of what looks like a bike path, maybe. So I guess if staff could explain why it is that we would give, albeit a small credit, for private parkland and space that isn't usable by people, but is either for stormwater. In this case, I assume the stormwater facilities are included in the acreage. I mean, they're marked, so.
Yeah, I think, well, the ordinance has been written that way for as long as I've been here, so at least 15 years, that we will, under consideration by Parks Board and if recommended by the Plan Commission, accept and provide a credit for private parkland. And the way that we've practiced that is we ask the developer to submit to us what they consider to be areas that provide open space that benefit the entire neighborhood, but that will not be owned by the public or maintained by the city. So in this case, they presented this proposal. It's showing about, I think, 14 acres, if I'm remembering correctly. They are only allowed to get a credit for up to, I think, 25% of their overall requirement, and that's only upon recommendation by the Parks Board and Plan Commission. This is one area where the Plan Commission makes the final determination. So this, you will not see this on the council agenda because this is administered by Plan Commission acting on the recommendation of the Parks Board.
Thank you for that. So just to clarify, if you look at the public parkland that's showing in the bottom left of the image, those paths will be maintained by the city, but the path going northeast, I guess, that is something the developer will maintain?
Either the developer through the association costs, or potentially it could be maintained by the adjacent property owner, which is how we handle ours in downtown Middleton and in Saks Woods neighborhood. The adjacent property owner is responsible for clearing snow and making sure that weeds aren't overgrowing the pathways.
Okay. And then finally, looking on the far eastern, southern part of the property, that part, it's a 10-acre. Nope, you just scroll past it. Sorry, I may have my directions wrong here. The private parkland, yeah. So that is going to be, it says private parkland, but it's actually, isn't that going to be a stormwater catchment area?
I believe so, yes. They're proposing that it be considered as private parkland because it's open space that's benefiting the neighborhood.
Did the city consider approaching the developer about having that be part of the dedication?
It was actually the other way around.
The
This land, though, is largely wetlands,
yeah, I know the
and it
land
was
well.
not deemed suitable for open park space. So we did not consider that.
Yeah, so the developer is interested in dedicating it to the city. The Parks Board said they would not count that as active parkland toward the credit. It's possible that the developer may still want to donate it or dedicate it to the city, but it would not be able to be counted as active parkland.
I see potential value in having that property for a number of reasons, not as parkland, so much as conservancy land.
Yeah, and that was brought up in one of our meetings, but in terms of active parkland, we said that was not going to be a suitable spot for it.
Okay. I would reconsider that because I mean, if even some of that could be counted as active, it could reduce, well, if the developer was already interested, we don't even need to count it. We could get the $861,000 and a parcel of land that could then be added to conservancy
He wanted
land.
to add that to his overall, so to reduce the
To reduce the-
861,000.
If we approve it as recommended, does that preclude continuing to work with the developer to try to? Well, it seems to me, once the $861,000 figure is determined, the developer needs to pay that amount or cannot go forward with the construction, correct?
I would agree with that unless they brought back a revision that was approved by the Plan Commission acting on the recommendation of the Parks Board. I believe that our Parks and Rec director reached out to our city attorney for guidance on this. And he strongly advised that the Parks Board not consider it active parkland.
Right.
We did have a development probably around 10 to 15 years ago that came forward with a very similar proposal. And the Parks Board recommended against accepting it as active parkland, but the Plan Commission overturned their recommendation. And now it's essentially a pond area that feels very private, and the Parks Department does not want to maintain it because it can't be used for field space or programming or shelters or anything that would identify it as a park. So our city attorney advised the Parks and Recreation Director that it shouldn't be counted toward active dedication requirements. And I believe Parks looked at it at 2 meetings, I think.
Yeah, well, this proposal came out, or this came up on a meeting, and then the developer was there and said, hey, how about we add this extra 10 acres to reduce that park dedication fee? And then we had to come back once that kind of was put on the table. We brought it back the following meeting, and that's when Parks Director came back with information from the city attorney and just said that this is not going to be, because of the nature of the land itself, it's not going to be able to be used for any kind of programming or true park use.
Mhm.
And therefore, that's why the recommendation was to not accept it.
Okay. And it can't we can't do, a park dedication has to be parkland. It can't be conservancy land.
That is the way that Middleton has always handled it.
Okay.
I know every community is different.
Well, I think it would, I'm comfortable approving the motion that I made. But I do think this is a conversation worth continuing to have with the developer for reasons that I won't go into, but I know this area well because I live just south of it and I see potential.
Is that something you might want to refer to a committee of the whole kind of thing?
Yeah,
for
I think I would.
For a robust discussion, if we can bring it forward.
And the topic specifically would be consideration of this land as part of a conservancy
As part of
project.
a project to connect conservancies.
Okay.
In our comprehensive plan, we talk about connecting, and I think this is one chunk, one piece of the puzzle.
And I was thinking more of a broader term, which is what you were talking about, the active park and that definition. And if what we've always done is what we want to continue to do, or if there's a way to revisit that.
You will get to have a robust discussion about park fees very soon.
I'm excited.
We have a
So
report.
I'm going to be happily not talking at that meeting. I'll let council have that discussion. Is there any other?
No.
Okay, great. Let's see here.
Do you want to go back to
We need
the?
to vote.
Yes, thank you. I was trying to remember. All those in favor of the approving the park and open space fee and land dedication for Red Tail Ridge Acker Farm Development, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And moving on to adjourning. Do I get to adjourn?
You can just, we've reached the end of our agenda, so technically you can say we are adjourned.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For your patience.
Thanks, Randy.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for testing the